The question is that this House do now adjourn. Helena Dollimore.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I've called this debate today about Owens in Hastings, the short-lived family fun factory whose boarded-up front is a familiar and depressing sight to anyone who has walked through our town centre. We are certainly not the only town to have experienced boarded-up shop fronts, which have become all too common on high streets around the country. But the reason that I'm here speaking about this at 10 p.m. is because of what it has come to symbolise for our community. Owens has come to symbolise much more than a mere eyesore. Under the Conservative government's levelling up plans, Owens received £150,000 of taxpayers' money. At the grand opening of Owens, it was revealed that the owner behind it was Lyubov Chinokin, a millionaire who has donated over £2.4 million to the Conservative Party. Did Miss Chinokin, a millionaire owner, really need a top-up from the taxpayer to fund such a venture? Was this truly the best use of the money that was given to Hastings to improve our town? None of this makes any sense to my constituents. Madam Deputy Speaker, it gets worse. Owens closed shortly after opening, and the deserted, boarded-up building now dominates our town centre in Hastings. The staff were laid off with no notice, and many people who supplied the business and helped with the building work have said that they have not been paid for their work. The closure of Owens, now covered in wooden boarding, leaves a stain on our community. It's now been closed for 18 months. What has Miss Chinokin been doing in that time? The answer is donating vast sums of money to the party opposite. It's a shame that no members of the Conservative Party are here to hear this, because they might like to hear that recently the honourable member for Witham, who now sits on the front bench of the party opposite, accepted a £70,000 donation from Miss Chinokin. Clearly, Miss Chinokin is not struggling for money these days. And in the time since Owens has been closed, just that time alone, she's donated over £150,000 to the party opposite. I think she should donate the money that she received from the taxpayer back to the people of Hastings. Used well, it could go a very long way to fixing our broken paving stones, our broken bus shelters. So, Lyubov Chinokin, we want our money back. Until that money is repaid in full to our community, the Conservative Party should not be taking a penny in donations from her. Again, it's a shame that none of them are here, but I will be writing to the Leader of the Opposition, urging her not to take any more donations until this is done. She said very clearly, when she became leader, that her party would apologise for the mistakes that her party had made. So perhaps apologising to the people of my constituency is a good place to start. I would.
Jim Shannon.
Madam Deputy Speaker, can I commend the Honourable Lady for bringing this forward? One of the things that I see, and perhaps the Honourable Lady sees as well, I think a thrust of where the Honourable Lady is aiming towards is the town deal funding and what government offered give great opportunities to councils. And I know it did the same in my council area, where we developed an evening dining culture, a coffee culture, but it took the council to be the body that made sure that the money was spent where it should be spent. Does the Honourable Lady see the good things that can come out of the town deal funding, and thereby does she also agree, does the Honourable Lady agree, I should say, that when we look at the good things, that sometimes they should be the things we should all be focusing upon?
Helena Dollimore.
I thank my honourable friend for his intervention and his passion about his area and improving it. I think it's so true that where money is spent properly, in conjunction and collaboration with the priorities of local people, we see people really feeling a difference in their community. And that's why it's so frustrating for my constituents when I speak to them. We all know we could have spent £150,000 so much better. And that's where this frustration comes from. What we are left with is a boarded up, huge building in the centre of town that we have to walk past and be reminded of that failure every time. The Guardian has also reported that Lubov Chinokin's involvement in Owens was at least part funded by a £1.5 million loan from a British Virgin Islands company, Sunny Gulch Village Limited. The company was previously owned by her husband, Vladimir Chinokin, a former deputy finance minister in Putin's Russia and former chairman of a Russian bank. In a 2018 court case, Lubov herself confirmed that Mr. Chinokin had maintained, I quote, excellent relationships with prominent members of the Russian establishment. Is that really the company that the Conservative Party want to keep? And is that really a suitable donor? There are also serious questions to answer about what due diligence was done under the last government before taxpayers' money was handed out like this. The money was part of the Town Deal Fund under the last government. The plans for spending the money were meant to have been scrutinised by a board representative of the local community. But when I've spoken to local businessmen and women that sat on that board, they've told me that they were given very little information about the projects and pressured into signing them off. One asked repeatedly to see the full business cases, but was told they couldn't because of commercial sensitivities. Why did the previous government design such a process for spending taxpayers' money with so little transparency for us, the taxpayer? Local businesses also can't understand why the decision was taken to subsidise a commercial venture when they themselves have had to work so hard to get their local businesses off the ground with no help from the taxpayer. Genicon, a consultancy, were paid by the Town Deal Board to examine the business case for each project, but no research, analysis or figures have ever been shared. Did they ever do that due diligence? And all projects were signed off by the then Levelling Up Department. What checks and due diligence were done by officials and by ministers on those projects to ensure that our taxpayers' money was being spent wisely? It seems that in the case of so many Levelling Up projects, proper processes were not followed. If you speak to any charity applying today for public money, they will tell you about all the paperwork they rightly have to go through. Why was the bar set so low for a venture like Owens? Moving forward, it's absolutely vital that the same mistakes are not made. We have a brilliant opportunity under this Labour government to breathe life back into our high streets, sort out our empty units and get our local economy moving. I'm really grateful to the Minister for the Labour government's confirmation that Hastings will be part of the 75 towns awarded £20 million in funding towards this aim over the next decade. The government has rightly said that should be spent on the priorities of our community, whether that's broken pavements, broken bus shelters, or opening up important community venues like St Mary and the Castle. I will be publicly asking my constituents how they think that money should be spent and putting on the pressure for us to spend that money properly. The Labour government's also giving our community important new powers, like high street rental auctions, which will give local leaders the power to take action on properties that have been left vacant for over a year, granting local businesses and community groups the right to rent empty commercial lots at market price. Lastly, Madam Deputy Speaker, I'd like to put on record my thanks to the journalists involved in exposing this scandal. It's only because of the work of journalists at local publications like the Hastings Independent Press and also The Guardian that we actually know what has gone on. Never again should taxpayers' money be wasted like this. For this reason, I am also referring the case of Owens to the National Audit Office, and I ask them to investigate. The lessons from Owens must be learned. I give way to the Minister.
Jim McMahon.
Thank you. First of all, can I congratulate the Honourable Member for Hastings and Rye for securing this evening's very important debate, and can I also thank her for speaking so powerfully on behalf of her constituents. She is a passionate champion for Hastings and is leading the charge to make sure that not a single penny of government investment in the town is wasted. And I should say we have a number of things in common as Labour and Cooperative members of this House, but also that we are both in Hastings and Rye on the 8th of September 22, of course, when the late Queen had passed away. And what was very clear, apart from the profound sense of how important and significant that day was going around and speaking to your now constituents was just what high regard you were held in then and I'm glad to see that was reflected in the result that followed in the election too. Before I turn to the main subject of the debate, I'd like to speak about the funding that the government is putting into her constituency. Last week, my department announced up to £20 million of funding and support for Hastings through our new Plan for Neighbourhoods. This will help build a thriving Hastings, strengthen the local community, and allow residents to take their own decisions on things that affect them. We're also giving Hastings £15 million for our community regeneration partnerships, which will help provide more affordable housing in the town and fund improvements at the Hollington Youth Club. These investments come on top of the £24.3 million town deal for Hastings. Our town deals are based on local partnerships and decision making, and they're led by local town boards, of which I know the Honourable Lady is a member of, and I know that she champions her area extremely well. I'm pleased to see the town deal in Hastings is well into delivery and is beginning to deliver results on the ground. Although I hear her concerns about Owens Entertainment Centre, and I'll turn to this in more detail now. When the Honourable Member raised this issue in the House last year, I was very disappointed to learn about the closure of Owens and any money wasted under the previous government. Although the decision to invest in the project was taken by Hastings Borough Council and the Town Board, it goes without saying that it's deeply disappointing when projects fall through. I understand that the project's former Debenham site was due to bring the building back into use and create more leisure facilities and, importantly, local jobs. Following the closure and the company responsible going into administration in October 2024, the owner has retaken possession of the building and the space has been re-advertised for lease. I hear the concerns of the Honourable Member and her constituents loud and clear regarding her constituents getting rightfully their money back. Although the funding comes from the UK Government, the responsibility for local town board management sits with the Town Board and formally with Hastings Borough Council as the accountable body for the town deal. I understand Hastings Borough Council have issued legal letters last year regarding the potential action to recover the £150,000 of Town's Fund, which is allocated to CFEC Limited, who ran Owens Entertainment Centre during this time. Now, I'll be direct, as she was direct, and say that there are plenty of unanswered questions here. But what we do know is that the party opposite, when they're in government, had received £2 million in donations from its owner. We also know that under their watch, this now closed amusement centre received more than £150,000 of taxpayers' money. The simple question we don't yet know the answer to is why. Why this millionaire Tory donor might have needed a top-up from the taxpayer to open a bowling alley. There are concession owners in the dark, ticket holders confused, and importantly, 31 staff members without a job who I'm sure would like to know the answer to that question too. I'd also sure they'd like to know if the party opposite, given what's now come to light, have any intentions of potentially returning all or part of the donations that they receive for the benefit of the local community. Now, following news that CFEC Limited had gone into administration in October 24, a claim was lodged with the administrators to recover the £150,000. My officials will continue to stay up to date on the situation through our town deal monitoring and regular conversations with the council. On town deals more widely, my colleague, the Honourable Member for Nottingham North and Kimberley, was pleased to offer an extra year for delivery recently, taking the end of the fund to March 2027. We all want to see quick results, but colleagues in this House and in councils have reiterated how challenging it's been for projects, especially with cost inflation. This government has listened, and that's why there's now an extra year of funding to get those projects over the line. My officials are working with places where the extra year is taken up to make sure that delivery stays on track. Now, looking at the broader picture, the last government tied places up in knots with their short-term initiatives and funding pots, all with very different rules and different timetables. And far from driving growth, this bogs down places in bureaucracy, complexity and in uncertainty. Moving ahead, we will set out a refreshed approach to local growth funding at the multi-year spending review in the spring, an approach that simplifies funding with less red tape and more local choice. This government's defining mission is growth, and we are determined that nowhere is left behind. And together, we will work in partnership with local people on the ground and local authorities in Hastings and in every part of the country.
The question is that this House do now adjourn. As many as of that opinion say aye. Aye. The ayes have it. Order, order.